Guys, we're back at the Black Diamond residence with Doug Mullen on behalf of Andersen Windows, and this is episode 3 of a 3-part series. Episode 1, we went down to Cape Cod panel. We talked about the wall assembly. We walked you through some of the detailing around how those window openings were prepped. Episode 2, we actually walked through the installation of the cool pivot doors on the home. And then episode 3 today, we're gonna walk through the finished product, showing you the Andersen 400 series, how they were installed, the detailing that we're seeing on the exterior and interior, and then we're also gonna take a look at that pivot door. Before we do that, we got building number 3 under construction. So we're gonna revisit those window openings so we can walk you through how they prep those window openings for extended install.
Check it out.
So we're on the back of building 3, and we're gonna look at the openings. The Andersen 400 windows will actually be installed. When we were at Cape Cod panel, one of the things that we noticed is that they're using the Zip R sheathing, which has a foam behind it. And one of the concerns that came up was if they were to install that window typically with that foam, you'd crush it.
Yeah, because there's a nailing flange on the new construction window, so you want some structure. Here, where this is typically foam, you want some structure to be able to attach those fasteners into.
So what they did is they actually took a 2x piece of material and replaced the first 1.5 inches with solid wood. You can kind of see it here. You have this 2x6 on the face of it, but if you can picture that, just 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, that's what we have here. But from there, you know, we're dealing with a standard install.
Yep.
Everything gets taped, flashed as it would on any install. There's no extra consideration. And I think that's important to point out because when we think about windows and we think about standard practices and when stuff changes, especially from a code compliance perspective, it can be challenging in the way our trades are being educated. They're going from one job doing it one way to the next job doing it differently. So it's really important to create standards that they can follow that are typical rather than an atypical, because I think that's where we get into this situation where we see more opportunities for failure.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a rough opening. We have building 1, which we toured last time we were here, all complete. So let's go to the exterior of that building and we can show what that window looks like on the outside.
It's nice and convenient that we have buildings in multiple stages of construction here, but this is building 1. This was the first building that was completed. You can see now that everything's finished, all your trims, your drip cap, everything's applied. There's no difference between this and a more traditional installation. You don't have any weird offsets or transition points. The trim's on there, the siding's on there, everything's waterproofed and detailed, just as it would be with a more traditionally stick-framed home and a more traditional exterior sheathing.
Yeah, and what do we mean by that? Some of the things that we see when we talk about exterior installation details, you have windows that end up in different planes of the wall. And they all work to some extent as long as they're installed properly, but you're getting the benefit of higher efficiency wall assembly with a more traditionally installed window.
Yeah, and it's just showing that everything was planned for and accounted for at the framing stage and at the design stage, and it really has no effect on that end product. Everything's planing out the way that it normally would, but you're getting that increased efficiency of framing off-site and the exterior installation, and it's not affecting anything with the window install.
So from an aesthetic standpoint, we're dealing with an all black 400 series window. On the exterior, it pairs really well with the dark siding as well as the natural cedar, which will silver over time. But they also have the black on the inside, which really helps, you know, that desired aesthetic of really thin profiles. And Doug and his team did a really great job of detailing the trim to kind of enunciate how thin that window can look and really give you the focal point of being what's beyond that window, which will inevitably be the beautiful landscape. So we'll go inside and we'll walk through some of our favorite details. So before we head in, this is actually the pivot door that we were installing in episode 2.
Well, we witnessed the install. I don't
That
think
is
we
fair.
were installing this.
We did not install it. When I say we, I mean everyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, this is a big architectural component to the project. It's a big glass door, gives you a ton of light coming in. And obviously the pivot action is something that I think is impressive to see. And not to mention, for a really big door, really easy to operate. And then talking to Doug, this unit's sold. And I had asked the question about the pivot door and he was like, it's a huge hit.
Yeah, their purpose with the original design, right? They wanted an impact when you walked through this door or walked up to this unit, and seeing this door and just how large it is and how expansive this amount of glass is with how thin the rails are, it's pretty impressive.
It is a very impressive door, but the hardware is what really makes this door so impressive, from operation, from what it looks and feels like, being the detail that adds a lot of impact, as you say, as you approach it and walk in and out of this home.
As with anything that we do, the focus really in the success of this door install is on the prep work to the opening and setting that hinge box, ensuring that everything is just right so that this door functions as effortlessly as it does now.
The flushness to this. You have a very low profile threshold.
Yeah.
You know, we're dealing with a climate up here in New Hampshire. Granted, we do have a covered front porch, but it's very low profile, very, you know, almost completely flush. And then even our jam detail, you know, the way that they weather strip everything is very minimal.
Definitely makes the entry to this space.
So let's take our boots off and head upstairs. So we'll get to the windows, but before we do, Andersen's A-Series gliding patio door was also used on this project, which is super nice. One of the things, you know, when we're considering doors and windows on a project, you know, we try to use one manufacturer because what's gonna match the window is going to be something that the manufacturer makes as part of that product line.
It also makes these feel very tall,
yeah,
with these like long skinny panels. The other thing to consider is this is technically the front of this house, right? So when you're pulling up, traditionally you're not having sliding doors on the front of a house, but you want to take in this whole view. So they put something that appears when you're driving up to the front of it that looks more like a traditional window than a more standard sliding door with this Andersen glider.
Speaking of windows, we're gonna go back to the rear of the building here. The windows are all black units, and what I like about them is Doug and his team ordered them without extension jambs, which I think makes a huge difference here when they're fully installed. They come in here and install the custom window jamb. What that does is now you paint that white. Here you're getting that really simulated thin profile, which is oftentimes referred to kind of in the steel and the aluminum window world, and you're doing that here with, you know, a typical Andersen 400 series window, which is a great detail.
This is a really good look. I love how small and narrow all the stiles and rails are. Makes me appreciate how much glass is in this space.
Yeah, another thing to consider when you talk about the amount of glass is that we're dealing with a crank-out casement window. Having the crank-out casement allows you to have that full glass, and if you were to want to open it, you're just going to crank it out, and then you get that full window opening up versus just having kind of that half panel sliding up and down.
It's funny, when you went to go do that, I went to go look if there was a secondary latch, but it's all integrated. So yeah, they have multiple latching points, but only one locking mechanism, so you don't have to go and unlock multiple latches.
I remember as a kid, yeah, I remember as a kid trying to open windows that were like this, and
why isn't it opening?
Yeah, I just couldn't reach the top one, and now, you know, no matter how tall you are, you can reach that lock and unlock the entire window.
Yeah, it's a great look. They did a nice job.
So a really nice unit, and just like the gliding door, everything matches really well. It's a much more contemporary looking unit, but it still blends in and looks just like everything else that is in their line.
What was most enjoyable for me with this entire process is seeing it from concept through completion. And we're still seeing ongoing construction, but being able to be at Cape Cod Panel while they were fabricating panels, seeing it mid-construction, the windows, the doors going in, being involved with all the trade partners, Doug, the builder, Andersen, obviously, and then getting to see a finished product where they're ready to turn this over to a customer has been really cool.
We're at the end of this. This one is ready to be turned over to its owner, and getting the feedback from the owner that they're not only excited about moving in here, but they like the detailing. The front door was a big hit for them. If that's a big hit, the rest of the windows and doors in here make a big difference, and probably played a big role as to why they purchased this project.
Oh yeah, we should see if we can get a week worth of vacation out of him.
I think we should see if we can get a free condo.
Oh, even better.
Let's do that.